Hey everybody, this is Johnny Wynn here from ExpertBoxing. I did make a fight prediction on the Mayweather Pacquiao fight, and now people want me to make a post-fight statement, so here it is. Pretty much, I'm glad the fight happened. I'm glad we got to see what happened. We got to see Mayweather's style, defensive style against Pacquiao's defensive style, and just to see him in the ring. We just want to see two different dudes. It's like a fantasy matchup, and it happened. So, what does it mean that it happened now versus if it happened 6 years ago? I mean, I think if it happened 6 years ago, it could have been a little different. Pacquiao with more volume and Mayweather with more footwork. So who knows? It might have been a more energetic version of the same thing. You know, People talk about Pacquiao's shoulder. Would it have been different? Maybe. I'm thinking if he had a good shoulder, would he really have been able to throw more punches? Because Mayweather wasn't really in front of him anyway. So, I don't know how many more punches he could have possibly thrown at the air. If anything, I think he made a great strategic decision not throwing so many punches. Because if you throw many punches and they hit the air, then you look stupid. Then you really look outclassed. So I think it's a good thing he didn't throw so many punches. But you know, uh, before the fight, I predicted basically like a 4 point win for Mayweather, which basically means Pacquiao wins 4 rounds, and then the other 8 rounds Mayweather takes. And the fight kind of happened like that. I did predict Mayweather would have a huge size advantage. I predicted he would be bigger, taller, and longer. And sure enough, when they got in there, Mayweather was very much the bigger fighter. And that was obvious. We know that coming in because Mayweather outsized Marquez and he outsized Ricky Hatton. And when Ricky Hatton fought Pacquiao, he was bigger. And when Marquez fought Pacquiao, he was bigger. So, exactly as anyone would have expected. Um, I will say one thing that when the fight happened, and I look at two fighters in the ring, this is what I really liked was the head, the arms, the calves. Pacquiao's head was probably maybe even a little bigger than Mayweather's head, and I love guys with a big skull because a big skull usually you take shots better. You're more durable. You have a thicker, bigger bone structure. Bigger jaw structure. You take shots better. So the fact that Pacquiao's head wasn't smaller than Mayweather's head, I think was a really good thing. And then the arms. Pacquiao's biceps was not like so skinny compared to Mayweather's biceps. When you look at Mayweather's fights against Mosley, bigger arms. He had the bigger arms. Against Maidana, I think he had the bigger arms. I think even against Canelo, when they weighed in, Mayweather had the bigger arms. So, and then calves, for sure, Pacquiao bigger calves. So I like that. But nonetheless, Mayweather was the bigger fighter, and it helped him a lot. It helps. Size makes a difference. Uh, t- 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 I think Mayweather for sure he deserves credit for fighting a very good Pacquiao. I think that Pacquiao was dangerous. He was smart. He was fast. He was clever. He was game. He's a very game, very tough Pacquiao. I was afraid before the fight that Pacquiao may have got too old. Maybe he slipped. Maybe wouldn't be as sharp, not as fast, wouldn't look as good. But I thought he looked pretty good. I mean, he looked like a very good Pacquiao, even though he was slower and older. But I think he fought pretty well. So he didn't embarrass himself. And then the official scores of it was what 118 and 110, and then the other two were 116 and 112. I totally agree with it. I personally had it 116, 112 for Mayweather, but I think it could have very easily been 118, 110. Could have been wider score because Mayweather does many things that scores points. For one, he has the long arm shot. He has a very clean long arm shot, and it's so fast that when it touches you, your head snaps back. Even if the punches don't hurt, but it touches you, it snaps back. The judge can see a long arm shoot across. It hits, your head goes like this. Very easy to score the point. Whereas if you're a Pacquiao, you know, and you're in there throwing a bunch of short arm punches that, it's kind of muddy. It's a little messy. And then Mayweather's head is in here. It's not like his head is out here. So even if it moved around, you don't really see it too much. It's harder to see that kind of thing. So for sure, I mean, Mayweather does have a visually more appealing style. and the distance that the fight was fought, I mean, even if the fight was even, I think Mayweather still would have got he would have got the victory. I think Pacquiao did a great job. I think he he did outbox Mayweather at certain times, and he did outfight Mayweather at certain times. He landed the harder punches. He landed more of like he won more of the hurting sequences, and he hung with him. Before the fight, I didn't think Pacquiao would match Mayweather's skill and talent. I thought Pacquiao basically his only advantage was a southpaw thing and that he was awkward, in the speed. But actually, when I saw them like nip and tuck, just tit for tat, right? I think he's equal. He's equal to Floyd in terms of chess ability, chess thinking ability. Certain little things Mayweather was doing, little pot shots, little touches, quick touches here and that. Pacquiao touched him right back. It wasn't like Pacquiao was overwhelmed by the speed or overwhelmed by the cleverness. He was able to touch him right back. And you have to consider that Pacquiao's a much smaller guy, so for him to even make it look like an even fight or make it look like a close, tense fight at times and make Mayweather think, a lot of credit for him. He was able to do many clever things, and likewise Pacquiao was able to keep Floyd from doing his usual stuff. So by usual stuff, I mean, Mayweather's usual his shoulder roll, throw a counter, or he would do the lead jab and he would pull back and throw a counter, his famous pull counter, or he would throw a lead right hand and he'll like duck under, or he'll throw a lead left hook and he'll duck under. Pacquiao forced him away from many of his old tricks. He had to do other things. So, I thought it was a very clever fight for both of them, adjusting to each other and finding ways to work, even though they couldn't do their usual stuff. Yeah, I thought Pacquiao was quick enough to stay with him. He did really well, forcing the fight, like being aggressive, having to jump in, having to try and force Mayweather to fight him. And at the same time, even though he did all that, he didn't get caught with stupid shots. He didn't really get outclassed. It wasn't, he wasn't getting caught with dumb shots. He was able to stay in there and fight his usual like gutsy, ballsy, aggressive style, and he did all right. I mean, Mayweather did touch him a few times, but it wasn't like Mayweather was able to land 5, 6 clean power shots on him. So I thought that was great. About Pacquiao winning, people didn't like that Pacquiao felt that he won. I can't say that Pacquiao beat Mayweather, but at the same time, I don't have a problem with Pacquiao thinking that he won because he landed the harder shots and he landed more of the hurting sequences. He did kind of, if you just take only the fighting part, like if you cut a highlight reel and put only the fighting parts, it looks like Pacquiao won all the fighting parts. And then if you cut a highlight reel of the touching parts, right, then of course Mayweather wins the touching parts. And I understand because sometimes when I spar a guy who doesn't want to fight. It happens. I'm chasing a guy, I'm hitting him with the harder shots, and all he's doing is running away from me, grabbing me, touching me. And I know in the spar, and everybody knows in spar, like, man, I beat the guy. All he did was run away from me. So I understand. Technically, you could say Pacquiao didn't win the match, but I can understand why Pacquiao thinks he won. I don't think he's a crazy, delusional person for thinking that. What else? I think that the way they fought, despite being older and past their primes, I think it was great, It doesn't take any way from their reputation. It doesn't hurt their reputation. I like, if anything, I like that Mayweather outpointed Pacquiao by several points because it keeps the credit with both guys. Mayweather is a good fighter. He beat all these good fighters, and then he's the bigger guy. Pacquiao is a good fighter. He beat all these good fighters, and he's a smaller guy. So for everything to make sense, if Mayweather was great and Pacquiao was great, but Mayweather's bigger, he should win. Because otherwise, if Pacquiao beat Mayweather, then it kind of invalidates Mayweather's whole career. It's almost like, you took a bunch of easy fights. The first real fight you had, you lost. Blah, blah, blah. You weren't really that good. And then likewise, it invalidates the Mayweather that Pacquiao beat. because now it's like, well, you beat Mayweather, but he wasn't that great anyway. So then maybe you're not that great anyway. So I think it does credit to both fighters for Mayweather to win by a small decision. Um, Now I do want to talk about another thing. I want to talk about is the few things. Scorecard controversy. I've seen that picture being passed around social media where it shows the red corner is Pacquiao and the blue corner is Mayweather, and then the scores don't match the color of the corners. I mean, I don't buy that. I don't think that's real, guys. I mean, look, if you look at the top of the columns, Floyd Mayweather's name is on the left side. Manny Pacquiao's name is on the right side. I imagine that the judges probably just looked at it and they stacked the points under the names because it was easier to see it that way. Or sometimes because of where the judges are sitting, Floyd Mayweather is on the his corners on the left side and Pacquiao's corners on the right side, and so it's easier to identify a fighter with a certain side more so than the actual color of the corner. So I don't think that's a real controversy. I don't know why people pass that around. And when you look at the scores, they gave rounds 4 and 6 to Pacquiao, and you can see that very clearly. Pacquiao did win rounds 4 and 6. So anyway, that's a non-issue. But I do want to talk about something. I want to talk about the sport of boxing and the definition of boxing, because I had some friends that don't know anything about fighting. I have some friends that are like basketball fans. They're not even sports fans. Some women, females. They were asking me. They said, "Johnny, I don't get it. I thought Pacquiao won. How come the guy who didn't fight? How did he win the fight if he didn't fight?" And I have to say that I've been involved with boxing for several years, and it was actually a very hard question for me to answer. And I know what some of you are thinking. Some of you are thinking because boxing and fighting are a different thing, and because the definition of boxing is to hit and not get hit. And I totally get that, because boxing is about hitting and not getting hit. And I have to say that to some degree, Floyd is not really about hit and not getting hit. He's more about like hit and don't let the other guy hit. And what I mean by that is like sometimes he avoids the fight. Like I don't mind him shoulder rolling, slipping, running, even running like that's annoying as hell. I don't mind that, but the moment you start hugging and you start clinching, you start hanging on to the arms for as long as possible until the ref breaks you, or leaning on Pacquiao for as long as possible until the ref breaks you. It starts to, it I can't say it's dirty. I can't say it's illegal. It's technically not illegal, but just as in the same way that just because something is not technically illegal doesn't mean that it's like morally or ethically or it goes against the essence of the sport. I mean, let's not talk about boxing for a quick second. Let's talk about like the NBA. Before they had the shot clock rule. Back in the days they didn't have a 24-second shot clock rule. Um, it was a team. I think I could be wrong. Basketball's not I'm not an expert, but I think it was Patrick Ewing's college basketball team. What they used to do was they would just pass the ball around to each other nonstop. They wouldn't take a shot unless they were 100% sure that the basket was open. And so they would keep doing that. They would just hog the ball, hold the ball, and then shoot it when they were guaranteed that the shot was good, that there was a clear opening. And what it did was it kind of killed the game. People were like, "Come on, just play." And you may have seen that in the NBA sometimes, right? Like there's 4 minutes left. One team is up, they're up 6 points, and what do? They start running out the clock, and so because of that, they now have a 24-second shot clock rule. And imagine if like one team scores two goals in soccer, which is huge, right? 2 goals in soccer, and then decides to just pass the ball to each other for 90 minutes. So it goes against the essence of the sport. It just takes the fight out of the fight. It takes the game out of the game. And I've seen this in other sports too. They have rules against this. I think it was in Taekwondo. In Taekwondo, which is a point sport, it's not even like a fighting, brawling, hurting sport. It's a point sport, and they have a rule in there that you will be penalized if you avoid the match or if you avoid the time. You know, if you try to avoid the fight, you avoid the match, or you're trying to run out the time, you get penalized for that. And to some degree, I think Floyd is definitely doing that. He's avoiding the fight and he's running out the time and he's not letting the other guy hit him. And keep in mind, I have nothing against defense, by the way. I have nothing against defense. Defensive fighters, I love, like James Toney, very defensive. Pernell Whitaker, very defensive. You know, Pernell Whitaker, when he defends, he like stays right there. He slips, he moves around, and he lets the other guy throw all these shots. That's exciting. You know, that's boxing. For me, that's hitting and not getting hit. But Mayweather, you know, he'll throw a punch and then cling on to Pacquiao's arms for 15 seconds. There goes, 8% of the round. That's not defense, man. You know, so yeah, there's something about it when you don't let the other guy punch. There's a difference between not letting the other guy hit you and not letting the other guy punch. Okay, and you have to compare it to other defensive fighters like Tony, James Toney, Pernell Whitaker, Winky Wright, Willie Pep. Guys in the modern times, Guillermo Rigondeaux. You know, so there's something about that. I think a great rule they could have that's similar to the NBA shot clock rule is like, let's say you can't go backwards for more than 5 seconds. You know, something like that. Um, or if you're going to clinch, you can't clinch for more than 3 seconds. So at least it's something to, keep the pace alive and keep the fighters in a fight. Otherwise, there are too many stall tactics. And I mean, even in the MMA, I've noticed if you just push a guy to the floor and lay on top of him and you're not making an aggressive effort, you're not making an intent to hurt him or to do something, then they stand you up and they reset. So I think they should do something like that to keep the pace up and keep the fight alive and not let guys get away with stalling tactics. Because, for as long as it's legal, you can bet that guys are going to game the system, especially if they're making millions of dollars off of this. So, maybe just some ideas. Hopefully, we find a way to, keep the sport exciting. Um, I want to compare the Mayweather Pacquiao fight to other fights. For example, Pernell Whitaker and Chavez, Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. I think what was it? Chavez followed him around and Whitaker ran around and out touched him, and people called it a robbery. People called it a robbery, but they gave that fight to Cesar Chavez, and I'm not going to argue either way. If Whitaker won because he did his thing, okay. Chavez won because he was supposedly more aggressive, okay. But I'm just mentioning it so we can talk about it. There was the De La Hoya Trinidad, if you guys remember that fight. De La Hoya, I think, outboxed him the first 6, 7, 8 rounds. And it wasn't just boxing, right? It wasn't just like he touched him. Like, he hit him with some shots. Like, he hit him. And then the last 4 rounds, he basically ran away from Trinidad. And he lost the fight. And many people felt that he deserved to lose the fight because he ran away. So, you know, you have, I think in more recent time, Carl Froch versus Andre Durrell. I don't know if you remember that fight. Durrell was moving backwards the whole time, out-touched Froch. Froch maybe hit him. He hit him with some big shots here and there, but it wasn't like he hurt him. And anyway, they gave Froch the fight. They gave him the victory because he was more aggressive. So, there's definitely a double standard. There's a double standard going around. Sometimes you win the whole fight you lose and nobody complains. Other times you run the whole fight and you win and people complain. And so I've seen the decisions go both ways. There's another grabber. There's another notorious grabber, Vladimir Klitschko in the heavyweight division. He does a lot of punch and grab. And he leans on you too. The difference between him and Mayweather is Klitschko, I feel, actually wants to hurt his opponents, and I feel he has intention. He actually wants to fight. Whereas Mayweather, I don't feel that, and Actually, I gotta be fair. I gotta backtrack. I think Mayweather did want to fight with Pacquiao. I think he did try to stand and trade with him, and it didn't work out too well. And so he said, "Forget this," and he backed out and he ran. But it's kind of sad for the sport of boxing when they don't fight or they don't have that intent. Even if I'm not asking you to trade punches. I'm not asking you to not have defense. But in the essence of fighting, if you look at the top fights, the top pay-per-view fights back in the days, or the top big fights back in the days, like Ali, Frazier, and Sugar Ray Leonard and Duran, Hagler, Hearns, or even what's a more modern one? Felix Trinidad and Fernando Vargas. That was awesome. It'd be great to have that kind of marquee fight. So it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad that it's gotten to this point, and I think something has to be done. I think you as the fans, you guys got to buy. You got to buy into the good fights. I mean, buy into the guys that fight. There are many guys that fight, and some of them, unfortunately, because they fight, they don't have undefeated records. Pacquiao is a great example. Because he fights, he puts himself at risk, and because he puts himself at risk, he has, the five losses on his record. Marquez put him down, and so it depends, right, fans? If you're going to keep buying fights of a guy who fights like that, then obviously you're communicating to the sport of boxing that you like Mayweather style the best. And if that's what it is, if that's what you like, don't be mad that don't be mad that that's exactly what you're getting. You're going to get a guy that's undefeated, and he's undefeated. He's not taking the fights that you want him to fight, and even when he does take the fights that you want him to fight, he still doesn't fight them. So that's we all choose the reality that we live in today. Um, but let's talk about Floyd Mayweather. I have a lot of respect for him. I know he's got the talent. I know he has the skill, and I know that he works hard. And I'm a very big fan of hard work, and how he's come up in life. Life was never easy for him, and fans are never easy for him. It's not easy to be Floyd, man. Nobody likes you. So I have a lot of respect for him. And at this point, uh, it's not even who can beat Floyd, because I think there are guys that can beat Floyd. I think Amir Khan would beat Floyd, just his style. I mean, the same thing Floyd did to Pacquiao, or Floyd does to like Guerrero, Robert Guerrero. I think Amir Khan would do the exact same thing to Floyd. He would just touch him and run and touch him and run. There are guys out there that I think could beat Floyd, but I'm at the point where it's like, who deserves to beat Floyd? Who deserves to beat Floyd? Because you have to respect you respect who he is and respect what he's done for the sport, and just respect that he lived his life on his terms. He said, okay, I want to make money, I want to do, and he did what he wanted to do. So you have to respect that. And when I say who deserves to beat Floyd, I seriously mean that Floyd is getting old. He has to pass on the torch. And who deserves to beat him? Does Amir Khan really deserve to beat Floyd? I don't think so. I don't think so. Um, you know, I remember. Sorry, I got to backtrack. I remember back in the days when Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. was getting old, and they had to pass the torch on to somebody, and it was De La Hoya that beat the Julio Cesar Chavez, and I think De La Hoya deserved it, because when he beat Chavez, he carried on the tradition of taking big fights. This phone keeps cutting off. I keep running out of space. But I was saying, when De La Hoya beat Chavez, he carried on the tradition of fighting everybody. I mean, he fought like everybody in the 20 years. I mean, if you go back in time, Cesar Chavez Sr., I think Yori Boy Campas, Trinidad, Vargas, Ike Corte, um, Shane Mosley, Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Arturo Gatti. He fought Hopkins. Crazy, crazy. He fought Hopkins. He fought Felix Sturm. He fought, actually got in there with these middleweights. I can't even remember. I mean, it was like 20 guys, like 30 big name guys. you know. So Ricardo Mayorga. Anyway, the list goes on. So I think he deserved it. He deserved to take the torch from Chavez Sr. and to to get the recognition that comes with it. So who deserves to take it from Floyd? You know, just because you can beat Floyd doesn't mean you deserve it. You know, and same way, like I'm sure if Thurman fought Pacquiao, Thurman might stop him. But to say that Thurman really deserves it, I don't know. I don't know. There's one guy I think could have beat Floyd if they ever fought, Paul Williams. I would have put all my money that Paul Williams could beat Floyd. Just tall, long arm, southpaw, tons of volume punches. I think it would have been a nightmare. And he had a good chin to go with it. And it was unfortunate for him because nobody would fight him. You know, he's like in Guillermo Rigondeaux's position right now. Nobody will fight this guy. And then he had to go up to 154, and still it was hard to get fights. And he had to go up to like 160 finally, and then we know what happened. Sergio Martinez knocked him out, and then he was out of contention. But I definitely think Paul Williams would have beaten Floyd Mayweather. Anyway, uh, what I want you guys to do is just box and uh, and pay attention to the guys who actually fight. You know, buy like Gennady Golovkin's pay-per-view. If that's the kind of fighting you like to see, buy that pay-per-view because money dictates. You know, whoever you support is who is the kind of thing you're gonna see more of. You know, otherwise, if you support Mayweather style, then you're gonna get more Mayweather. And and yeah, but for sure, I really don't like the grabbing thing. You know, the way he fights. I mean, I'm like that would never happen in sparring. You know, if you go into the gym and you spar like that, where you're grabbing a guy, like they would just pull you out. The trainers would just go like, dude, get out of here. If you're tired, you're injured, you don't want to fight, get the hell out of here. We're trying to work on our skills, and we can't do that. We have a guy that's stalling and holding. So, that wouldn't even happen in training and practice. You know, so but it is what it is. That's what the game has evolved to today. It's a very risk averse. It's a very safety first. And like I said, I don't have anything, and I got nothing against defense. I got nothing against being skillful, but I do have something that goes against just the essence of fighting, the essence of uh, sending out punches and avoiding punches. You know, um, that's a lot better to me. That's the truth of boxing, not avoiding the fight. Anyway, this video is mega long, so thank you guys for watching all this, and I'll see you next time.